From sunken ships to capsized boats, dramatic marine salvage missions bring powerful cranes, daring divers, and high seas challenges together in a race against time to recover vessels lost beneath the waves. Dive in and witness the rescue unfold. On September 8, 2019, the car carrier Golden Ray, built in 2017 and managed by Hyundai Glovis, capsized near Brunswick, Georgia. Flying the Marshall Islands flag, the massive vessel overturned in St. Simon Sound. 20 of the 24 crew members were rescued, while 4 remain missing inside the ship. Feodosia is beautiful from above. It was once a beautiful harbor with about 200 ships, both warships and merchant ships, large and small. Because of that, it has many shipwrecks from the previous century, and from above you can also see sunken ships and boats drifting near the shore. In January 2016, the 164-meter cargo ship Modern Express drifted in the Bay of Biscay after severe weather caused it to list 40 degrees. The vessel lost power en route from Gabon to France. All 22 crew were safely airlifted, and the ship was later towed to Bilbao, Spain. In October 2017, the floating shear-leg crane Tacklift 4 was deployed to remove the wreck of the M/V Cabrera off the coast of Andros, Greece. After the ship had broken apart and sunk to a depth of 34 meters, salvage teams from Smith Salvage and Megatugs undertook the complex operation. First, divers and remotely operated vehicles were used to inspect and prepare the site. The Tacklift 4 was then positioned above the wreck, and its powerful crane was used to lift large sections of the stern and accommodation block from the seabed. Each lift was carefully coordinated, with support vessels stabilizing and securing the recovered parts. The removed sections were transferred onto barges for transport and disposal. Throughout the operation, precise handling and weather monitoring ensured safety and efficiency. The successful lifting marked the completion of a key phase in the wreck removal project. After the Golden Ray capsized on September 8, 2019, the shipowner had just 6 hours by law to deploy an emergency salvage crew. Initial efforts prioritized rescuing the 24 crew members, with 4 trapped inside under extreme heat. Donjon Semi-T, a world-renowned salvage company, cut into the hull to supply them with water, food, and eventually a ladder for escape. However, instead of allowing Donjon Semi-T to complete the operation, the salvage contract was controversially rebid and awarded to T&T Salvage. Their plan involved cutting the ship into 8 large sections. This method caused significant pollution risks, as the ship carried 4,200 vehicles with gas tanks, antifreeze, and hydraulic fluids. The alternative plan by Donjon Semi-T to gut the vessel while keeping the hull intact was rejected, despite its lower pollution risk. The project has since faced massive delays due to legal disputes, COVID-19, equipment failures, at least 2 major oil spills, and a devastating fire. An environmental barrier was installed to contain contaminants, but critics argue that the Coast Guard's approval of the plan favored cost saving over environmental protection. Despite these efforts, the operation is still ongoing and has become the most expensive ship salvage in history, exceeding $1 billion, far above the original estimate of $100 to $200 million. The Golden Ray shipwreck was cut into 8 large sections for removal after it capsized, while carrying over 4,200 vehicles. The salvage operation began with the cutting of Section 2 using a massive chain system suspended between 2 lifting barges. Once severed, the section was lifted and placed onto a barge for transport to a disposal facility. Each cut required precision due to the ship's size and unstable condition. Despite the scale of the wreck, all 23 crew members and the pilot survived. The operation was part of one of the most complex and costly ship salvage efforts in history. The South Korean cargo ship Golden Ray capsized off the coast of Georgia, United States, leaving 4 crew members missing. The rescue efforts were severely hindered by intense fires on board. Prior to the blaze, the U.S. Coast Guard managed to save 20 crew members. Authorities are currently investigating the cause of the accident. Meanwhile, the South Korean government is coordinating all possible assistance to support the ongoing search and recovery operation. On September 5, 2021, the VB-10,000 successfully completed the final cut of the Golden Ray wreck in St. Simons Sound, Georgia, separating the remaining structure into 2 large sections. This marked the end of the cutting phase of the salvage operation, which began in November 2020. The VB-10,000, a massive twin-gantry heavy-lift vessel, used a powerful anchor chain system to slice the 656-foot car carrier into 8 segments. The process took place within an environmental protection barrier and faced challenges, including a fire in May 2021. After completing the final cut, the VB-10,000 repositioned to prepare for lifting for removal. Near Galveston, Texas, lie the remains of the SS Selma, a unique concrete-hulled tanker built in 1919 in Mobile, Alabama. Named after a nearby city, the Selma was one of 12 ships constructed with concrete due to steel shortages during World War I. Launched on June 28, 1919, her service was short-lived. Less than a year later, she suffered a 60-foot gash in her hull after an accident in Tampico, Mexico. The damaged ship was towed to Galveston for repairs, but local yards lacked expertise with concrete vessels. Unable to restore her, the U.S. government chose to scuttle the Selma. On March 9, 1922, she was intentionally sunk off Pelican Island, near the busy Houston Ship Channel. Today, the wreck remains a century-old reminder of an unusual wartime experiment in shipbuilding. The salvage team successfully completed the cutting and lifting of Section 7 of the Golden Ray wreck on April 24, 2021, marking the end of the most challenging phase of the project. Work on this section began in January but was delayed due to multiple setbacks, including frequent chain breakages and maintenance issues. At one point, the cutting chain broke in a location that made repair impossible. As a result, operations shifted temporarily to Section 2 at the bow, while preparations were made to resume cutting Section 7. Replacing the chain and realigning it into the cutting groove proved extremely difficult, but the crew persisted. Eventually, they managed to re-establish the chain path and complete the cut. The section was then successfully hoisted by the VB 10,000 heavy lift vessel. From the stern view, the separation between the ship's sections became clearly visible, offering insight into the structural challenges the crew faced. With Section 7 now suspended and ready for flushing and barge transport, the team expressed pride and relief at overcoming the longest and most difficult cut to date. This marked a significant milestone in dismantling the Golden Ray for recycling. In 2014, Versabar's VB 10,000 successfully used its innovative claw system to lift 4 sunken topsides from the seafloor. The claw consists of 2 identical grappling units, each 122 feet tall, 112 feet wide, and weighing 1,000 tons. Controlled by the VB 10,000, each claw operates independently or together for heavier loads. To minimize seabed preparation, custom-engineered cradles were placed next to the wrecks. The claw carefully lifted each damaged topside onto a cradle, then raised the entire assembly to the surface, avoiding further damage. This method showcased the claw's flexibility, allowing efficient and stress-free salvage in challenging offshore conditions. A ship's stability refers to its ability to return to an upright position after being tilted by external forces like wind or waves. There are 2 types: transverse, side to side, and longitudinal, bow to stern. Stability depends on the interaction of 3 key points: center of buoyancy B, center of gravity G, and metacenter M. When G is below M, the vessel has positive stability and quickly rights itself. If G and M align, it results in neutral stability, and if G rises above M, the ship becomes unstable, risking capsize. Stability is also affected by cargo shifts and hull design. Navigating into waves from the stern or bow should be avoided to reduce stress on the structure and maintain safer, more stable navigation. The salvage operation at Kiato Port involved the recovery of a sunken tugboat using a large floating crane. The procedure began with divers inspecting the submerged vessel to assess its condition and determine the safest lifting points. After securing the tugboat with heavy-duty lifting slings and chains, the floating crane was carefully positioned above the wreck. The lifting process required precision to avoid twisting or damaging the vessel's structure. As the crane slowly raised the tugboat, water drained from its hull, reducing the overall weight. Once the vessel broke the surface, additional pumps were used to remove any remaining water. The crane then maneuvered the tugboat onto a nearby barge or quay for further inspection and possible repairs. Throughout the operation, safety protocols were strictly followed, with coordination between the crane operators, divers, and port authorities. The successful lift restored navigational safety in the harbor and showcased the importance of specialized equipment and expertise in marine salvage operations. Jumping off the Shipwreck in Cape Town, we plunged into the ocean's cool embrace, enjoying a thrilling swim in the clear, deep waters. The giant crawler crane is the crane that carries out the salvage work on the Golden Ray cargo ship. This behemoth, weighing in at around 7,500 tons, is equipped with towering gantries and 2 overhead cranes capable of precisely manipulating the enormous load. As the crane sits on the capsized ship, it assists in cutting diamond chains through the hull and lifting sections weighing between 2,700 and 4,100 tons onto barges for removal. A sophisticated dynamic positioning system and 4 lifting blocks allow for delicate balance and stable operation on the wreck site. During the salvage operation, the crane not only cuts through steel but also lifts large sections with the precision that is essential to safely dismantling the Golden Ray and minimizing environmental risks. We observe the ongoing dismantling of the capsized cargo vessel Golden Ray in St. Simons Sound, Georgia. The operation has reached Section 6 of 8, which salvage crews are actively cutting apart. With that section now severed, only 2 large pieces of the ship remain attached, marking a major milestone in the removal process. The Golden Ray, a 200-meter roll-on/roll-off carrier, capsized on September 8, 2019 while departing the port of Brunswick, and has since been declared a total loss. Beginning in November 2020, salvage crews, operating around the clock, began slicing the hull into 8 sections using massive chainsawing techniques under the support of a heavy-lift barge, the VB-10,000. Cutting through Section 6 released pollutants, prompting environmental precautions and beach advisories due to oil leakage observed during that phase. Once Section 6 was fully cut free, only 2 remaining sections remained to be separated and lifted out. The operation would conclude with removal of these final pieces, making the project the largest wreck removal in U.S. history. The Golden Ray, a cargo ship carrying over 4,000 vehicles, capsized in St. Simons Sound near St. Simons Island, Georgia, in September 2019, shortly after departing from the port of Brunswick. Due to improper vehicle loading, the ship lost stability, listed heavily, and rolled onto its side, where it remained partially submerged on the sea floor. The vessel's position created a massive challenge for salvage crews, leading to one of the most complex marine recovery operations in U.S. history. The wreck was eventually declared a total loss and dismantled in 8 large sections for removal and scrapping. The incident sparked environmental concerns, as the ship's cargo and fuel posed risks to the surrounding ecosystem. The Golden Ray's capsized hull resting on the seabed became a stark reminder of the dangers of cargo imbalance at sea. The cargo ship MZ Golden Ray capsized in just 34 seconds after a catastrophic ballast system failure during a maneuver near Buoy 20. Carrying 700,000 Tellurides and other vehicles, it lost balance mid-turn while passing the Emerald Ace, causing it to tip dramatically and overturn.
All the seawater went to one side. The ship capsized as you see it now in 34 seconds.
The Versabar VB-10,000, a massive catamaran-style heavy-lift crane, was deployed to salvage a shipwreck from the seafloor. Using its dual gantry cranes and lifting beams, the crane carefully hoisted massive sections of the wreck with precision. Mounted on twin barges, this floating crawler crane ensured stability and control throughout the operation, showcasing advanced engineering and offshore salvage by safely removing tons of debris from challenging underwater conditions. The transportation process of the Shenzi TLP hull began with a SCADA operation to load the structure onto the mighty Servant 1. On the following day, the crew focused on securing the cargo to ensure stability during transit. Later that afternoon, the semi-submersible vessel departed for a forward location at sea. Once positioned, the mighty Servant 1 submerged, allowing the TLP hull to float off its skid beams and shift to the designated position on the vessel's forward deck. This sequence required precise coordination and timing to guarantee the safe handling and positioning of the massive structure throughout the journey. The decommissioning of the K10 Bravo offshore platform was carried out in a series of carefully planned heavy-lift operations. The process began with the transit of the heavy-lift vessel to the K10B site. Upon arrival, the crew initiated the dismantling by removing the vent boom structure. This was followed by the disconnection and removal of the bridge that linked different parts of the platform. Next, the wellhead's upper deck was lifted and removed, followed by the sequential removal of the conductors. These components were then transported to the Hundert yard, where they were discharged. After completing this delivery, the vessel returned to the K10B site to continue with the dismantling activities. In the second phase, the wellhead's lower deck was lifted off. Then, the crew proceeded to remove the leg extensions supporting the platform. The living quarters were also disconnected and removed in this stage. Before the jacket structure could be taken away, dredging was performed around the base of the legs to ensure safe lifting operations. Once the area was clear, the jacket was lifted and transported to the Hundert yard for final discharge. After this, the vessel sailed back to the platform site once again. The final phase involved the removal of the production deck, which was carefully detached, lifted, and brought to the yard. With the removal of the last jacket and leg extensions completed, the Rambiz vessel made its final voyage to the Hundert yard. This marked the end of the K10B decommissioning operation, with all major structures successfully dismantled, transported, and delivered for disposal or recycling. After high winds and rough seas snapped the tow line between the tug Florence M and the barge Tsuzuku Sha, the 100-meter vessel drifted and grounded on a sandy shoal off Pictou Island, Nova Scotia. The barge, carrying 6,400 tons of timber and machinery, began to list. Approximately 5,000 tons of wood spilled into the sea and started washing up along the shores of Pictou County. McKeel Marine responded swiftly. A team of engineers and salvage experts, including Chris Kirby and Tim McKeel, was deployed to assess the damage. Local experts were brought in to assist. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard, Transport Canada, and the Department of Fisheries monitored the unfolding operation closely, along with local media, fishermen, and insurance representatives. Honor Timini. A jackup platform named Jackup 600 arrived and was adapted for the task. This platform would serve as a stable working base for pumps and generators, and later act as an anchor during the refloating operation. Along with the jackup came support vessels including the barges Jean Raymond and the tugs Florence M and Wide M, cranes, excavators, pumps, hoses, and thousands of components necessary for recovery. The setup crew worked into the night despite light snowfall. Once the equipment was in place, the operation moved to the wreck site. Cranes began lightering, carefully removing bundles of timber from the deck to reduce the draft. Divers entered the water to inspect the hull and confirmed that portside ballast tanks 1, 2, 3, and 4 were punctured. Chris met with the crew to stress the importance of evenly balanced pumping to avoid capsizing or structural failure. As the team worked, unexpected weather forced adjustments. Water was added to certain tanks to counterbalance the remaining cargo weight. A new water barrier was constructed to prevent water from re-entering the barge. Additional pumps were deployed, including a submersible on the starboard side to achieve better trim. Eventually, after hours of effort, the barge was successfully refloated and towed back to Pictou. The Coast Guard reported that the salvage went nearly according to plan. Cleanup teams remained behind to collect spilled timber. Due to the damage, the barge was deemed beyond repair and would be scrapped. The operation concluded successfully thanks to tireless coordination and dedication from all involved. In Holyhead Marina, a commando unit carried out the towing of a sunken motorboat. The operation began with divers assessing the wreck's position underwater. Once secured, lifting equipment was attached to the submerged vessel. Slowly and carefully, the boat was raised just enough to allow for safe towing. The commando team then connected towing lines and guided the vessel through the marina waters. Maintaining controlled speed and direction, they successfully maneuvered the sunken boat toward a designated recovery area. Despite challenging conditions, the team completed the towing operation efficiently, ensuring the vessel was safely moved for further salvage or repairs.